readers, my name is Charity, the host of Birtrovert Reader Podcast. I'm introverted, but willing to talk about fantasy books. On this podcast, I'll do book reviews, author interviews, and fantasy book discussions. Come join me every week as I explore new realms and talk to amazing people. Hello, readers. This is Charity, your host of Bookstagram Reader. I am coming with part 2 of the book review of Blood and Mercy by Vela. I have Bookish McGee with me, Megan, to come again to talk about the book. We had a lot to say in part 1, and now we're at part 2. I don't even feel like we have fully extendedly talk about this book because there's so much detail, and then you say one thing and it triggers another thought, and then we're rampaging that way.
Yeah, it's so easy to get off. Like, I'm gonna open the book. I think I'm gonna open the book. I'm gonna look at the contents really quickly so I can just be
glossary in it.
There's so much here. Like, think about it. There's so much. There is 635 pages. I don't even know how many chapters that equates to. I know in the audiobook they break it down, but here she doesn't actually have chapters, which I kind of like because you're not sitting there mentally counting down how much you have left when you're reading. I really appreciate that. But yeah, I am gonna look over this beautiful glossary. This glossary is pages and pages thick, which makes me super happy.
So it's based off, she divided it up in sections, so it's counting down the days to spring equinox.
Mm-hmm.
And within those sections it's divided up into the chapters, but instead of chapter numbers it's a title instead. Mm-hmm. So it's oh, of course I choose a hard word. Me
too, I did as well. The Way of Things. The Way of Things. There's one. Through the Veil is another one.
Heretic in the Temple. Yeah, I miss chapter titles so much. I mean, back in the early 2000s. Early 2000s, they used to happen a lot, but now they kind of diverted from that, and I miss it. So, negotiations. What?
Yeah, it sets the mood. You're like, okay, let's do
War games. Wallflower. I love that.
Man, this is such a good book. So I'm just looking right. I think this was originally copyrighted in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look. I think it's here somewhere in the book, right? Yeah, 2018 was the first copyright.
There's a table of contents with the chapter names and everything.
Yeah. Winter Solstice, The Cloak, Dusk Rites, Blood in the Night, Trespassing, Blood Union. Okay, I'm going to stop because obviously people can get the book and look at the chapter names themselves. I'm just going off.
Right for it. Pleasure. Cassia's blood.
Yes. Spoilers.
Oh, my favorite. The feast.
Yes. Yes.
I'm not making fun of it. I just love chapter name.
No, I love it because it's dramatic. It sets the mood and it's dramatic. It sets the expectation of the chapter. And here's the thing about these two. This to me is and I'm skipping ahead. I think that this is part 2C was truly a slow burn, and the thoughts about it. There's a part in this where they brush hands, and you're like, oh my god. It brings back that historical kind of romance where you're watching Pride and Prejudice, and the smallest little thing happens and you're like, oh my god, yes. You're like, give it to me. So you're sitting there and you never know exactly when it's going to happen. And when they embrace for the first time, when they just hug each other because he's giving her comfort, it's they're touching. It's they're hugging and you're freaking out and so excited. But then of course it's not it takes the whole book for them to get together, and it's not it takes the whole book for it to happen again. You know what I mean? So you definitely cement the story between them and the bond between them in this book. But I will say that I loved that. I don't know if it would be called angst. Is it angst? That kind of anticipation of
It's the hardest way to describe. It's called I the one thing I wanted to describe it's called it's like an epic love story.
Yeah.
And because it's such a slow build up, it's not like a slow burn angsty like, oh, I want to touch him. No, it's like it develops
It's a slow
into
burn.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a true slow burn.
Yes.
Like if you want to fan the flames, you're gonna have to get to page 500 or something
Yeah.
like that, you know?
You don't have to wait that long. I don't think it's till 500, is it? I don't think it is.
I don't even. Oh, well, I read it at Cassia's blood or something like that.
I don't. It doesn't feel like it's that long, but it also does. If that makes any sense.
It felt like forever.
Yes, it felt like forever. I remember thinking, like, when I first read this, I was like, "Oh my god, This is so slow. She's torturing me. She's torturing me." But like in terms of like the slow burn, not slow as in the story, it's like she's torturing me. She's doing it on purpose. Because like every moment that I feel like he broke down a wall with Cassia, it was
Yes.
like, it's happening, it's happening. I see this development.
Yeah, I definitely. That's why I love it so much because of the fact that it just wasn't quick. It's like a when they actually got brought together, when they made the decision to be together, it felt real because you were with them that whole journey.
To kind of talk a little bit more, because I realized that I've been going out of my way not to really like talk so much about the story because I don't want to give anything away, but I mean, isn't that what we're also doing? So I never know how like the line to like walk with this. So basically when you start out, he smells her, gets the vibe for her, and is like, that's interesting, she's interesting. And she is like, when they're there, she's like ready to try to like find out more because of things that we find out later that have to do with her sister and the Mercy. And that's why this is called Blood Mercy, you know. But and like I don't know if you notice at the end they talk about Leo Solace or something. And I was just like, man, Vela just plants these little for like the next because the next one's called Blood Solace. You know what I mean?
Right?
Like it's just like Vela's just like over here giving us little bitty hints of what's gonna happen next, and I love it. But anyway, to get back on focus, they end up meeting because he's out basically feeding off deer, right? And he's very kind about it. He doesn't hurt the deer, like nothing like that. The cool thing about this is like his venom actually like heals, like his saliva, his venom, I don't know what you want to call it, actually like heals, is healing, has healing properties. So everything is very the opposite of what normal vampires are. So they meet up in secret at night, and we get to see them during the day. What happens during the day, and then they come back together at night, and we get to see that anticipation growing, and we get to see each kind of, I guess, breakdown of the walls. And we also get to see how caring Cassia is and how much by the end of it, she's like, I want to help. Who cares if they think I'm stupid, or who cares if like this happens? Like I'm going to help them get out, even if it means that I don't get to see Leo ever again, because obviously this is a forbidden romance between them, and there is no future in this for either of them in terms of what they know internally. They don't want to accept it, but internally they know that there are no expectations outside of like when they're supposed to leave.
Right. And just going forward, I know I should have said this in the beginning. Spoiler alert, we're spoiling it.
I did mention spoilers. I did mention that like out of the blue at the beginning, but I don't know if we'd already spoiled things.
So if you're hopping in on part 2, there is a part 1 to go to. I really reiterated that part 1 has spoilers and part 2 will have spoilers. I don't think we revealed too much,
spoilers.
But we will be
have more. Yeah.
Yeah. We're not holding back. We're not holding back.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I was just gonna say I got a little more about Hesperines. There is a lot of same things about Hesperines with vampires. They have to sleep during the day. They can only walk at night. And during this special time of this special tradition that they do, that they get a chance to roam the grounds. And I guess they're like so afraid of them that they're like, you can't come into The summit. Okay.
Yeah.
So they can't come into the castle, and no one in the castle can go out to them. So forbidden romance right from the get-go, because Cassie is not even supposed to be in that area regardless.
Yeah. And they can
And
only give the mercy to people who are like dying on like battlefields and
right.
that kind of stuff.
Right. A little more there. I guess Hesperines, they have like their oh wow, ambassadors. Is that how they called them? Ambassadors.
Yeah.
And they're considered their aunts, their uncles and cousins, even though they're not blood related. They're considered that because of the fact that when you get inducted, I guess, turned over into a Hesperine, you're actually considered a son or daughter or a cousin at that point, even though you're not blood related.
I feel like something we didn't hit on last time. I feel like now I'm being less like fangirly and more like into the story.
Yeah.
I feel like I had to get the fangirl out of me in part 1, and now I can be like, okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk tea.
Let's dig deeper.
Yeah. So I love that this story is a lot about found family, and it's basically like these people are mostly adopted, because they can't, as Hesperines, they can't have children. They are quote unquote vampires, but they can give new life. And like, even like, you learn more about that book too, so I'm not going to tell you anything. But
don't you dare spoil it for me.
Yeah. No, I almost did. I almost said things, but I didn't. But you learn a lot more about the family culture in the second book. But it is mentioned, like Uncle Aros. Aros, is that how it's?
Let's
Uncle
refer
Aros?
to the glossary.
Yes. I love that there's a glossary.
Oh, I am so dependent on that glossary.
Look, Vela, I'm so sorry. I'm mispronouncing. Like,
I
listened to the audiobook. I should know for sure.
I do wish there was like a punctuation. Is that how you say it?
Pronunciation.
Yeah. I wish there was kind of a breakdown of that, but I'll take the glossary. I'm not going to be too picky.
Yeah. Well, I will say, like, you do hit certain things on it, and you find out, like, in the way that he tells Cassia. Oh my god, I need to take a drink of water. My throat, it's getting dry.
I'm reading the glossary, and Argros, I guess, not only does it say that who he is to Leo, but he also tells about who he is to all the other Hesperians. And then it also talks about what he is as an ambassador. And then it talks about what he is also as well. And then in his human life, what he did. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And like, if you look at it, like, say, like Vale hours, Hesperine's term for the time of night devoted to private hours with friends, family, and lovers. Like, it's just so good. Vela really put so much time into this. And like, there's also like Silvertongue. See, like, and it's just so. And now I'm reading it a little. Hold on. Like, Trial Circle. Did we learn anything about his trial family? I think they mentioned it, but I don't think they go into depth. But anyway, I love that the story, like, the family centric, it's basically like most often it's almost like an adopted family. And the way that you say, like, brother, sister, cousins, like, because they're all in the union, they all have like this like love and empathy for one another that goes beyond anything that humans would know. And I really like that the story makes the humans basically the bad guys. Makes the humans the bad guys, and the vampires Hesperines, like these empathetic creatures that, I don't know, that are just tops, really. I just think it's such an interesting dynamic. But I know, part 2, thoughts on the king refusing to help the help of the magic to save the frost plague. Okay, so I can't remember if we have already found out about the sister before this or after this.
It's after, for sure.
It's after? Okay, because I remember it being like par for the course. Like, yeah, this guy, of course, is not gonna, like, they're all very egocentric. They're all very like there's gonna have to be a creative way for them to go around it, because if he allows help from the Hesperines, it's causing it's causing Hesperines to look like they are helping, like they're helpful. And it's also going to cause people to think, oh, well, maybe there are more benefits to getting to know them, and also make him look weak because he needs help. He can't do it on his own. And he's very egocentric.
By the time the Frost Plague is getting introduced into the storyline, we're really getting to know who the king really is. He's not just a jerk to Cassia. He's a jerk to his nation. We find out that he wants to take out Hesperines. He wants to get rid of Cassia, just get her off because she's such a hold on him. His quest for more power, whatever the case may be. There is this intense plague that is being threatening his own nation, but because of the whole magic that the Hesperines could offer the solution to, he's like, no, too bad, no.
I really like how these sisters, she goes to Cassia and basically is like, I fully support this, like, do it.
Mm-hmm. The amount of even Leo having to hide them helping each other out was extensive too, because he knew that in negotiations, if they went against the king so outright, that it would cause problems. So even he had to hide it from his own people to get this plant to them to grow, to save these people.
It's very cute how Leo kind of justifies, because he's like, I'm not lying. And I know I'm hiding something, but it's not lying. I won't outright lie to them.
Yeah, and he uses his magic to make it hidden too and everything. So I thought that was very funny. So we're getting to know this king. He's a jerk. And then just to get kind of into the storyline of Cassia's sister, who is actually the heir to the throne, the illegitimate daughter of the king. She somehow gets captured by, I don't remember who it was, but she gets captured. And these people go to the king and they said, give up your kingdom or we'll kill your heir. And he's like, go kill her then.
He's like, okay. And?
All right.
He's like, I don't need her. I'm never gonna die. I'm gonna always be king. No, he doesn't say that. But
and they're all like given like the ultimatum, like you have until the next day to decide. Yeah. And he's like, no.
Yeah, and like the people don't know that. Like to the people, she's still beloved, and to like the officials, like she's still beloved. There's only a few people that know the truth of that.
It's very heavily guarded secret. It's conveyed as she was captured and killed by these people and everything. And that's where Cassia meets the Hesperines for the first time. And she actually got away from them and tried to go into that fortress to get her sister. And the Hesperines actually was about and told her, it's dangerous out there. I think they save her, and they're like, we'll go find your sister for you. And I think when they came back, they're like, yeah, she went on to the next life. And that was hard to read, for them to be willing to go do that, risk themselves, and to give her kind of a little bit of a closure on what actually happened to her sister.
Yeah. And what I love about it is that little Cassia recognized that. She recognized how kind they were being, and like she grew up always thankful for that. And like they offered to give her, I think it's their rights or something. I don't remember what the name of it was.
Oh, I love their rights. I want to know what it is.
Oh, you find out, girl. You find out.
Yeah.
All right, pausing real quick, and I'm promising we'll get back to it. I love every one of your readers, and I'm in need of your support to help this podcast flourish. Here are the few ways you can help. 1. Subscribe. Subscribing to your favorite platform ensures that you get the latest episodes right away. 2. Rate and review. Leave me a glowing review and rating on your favorite podcast platform of your choice. Your feedback not only is exciting to me, but also helps other fantasy enthusiasts discover this podcast. 3. Share. Spread the word of Booktrovert Reader Podcast. Share these episodes on social media and recommend this book podcast to your friends. Sharing this podcast creates an amazing community of listeners just like you. Make sure to check out the description below to find all my links to my social media. 4. Support through subscriptions. Your support helps me continue making content. In the description below, you will find how to support me on this podcast. By subscribing, rating, reviewing, and sharing, it will help Booktrovert Reader Podcast get in front of other readers like you. Thank you for being a part of this journey, and make sure to tell me your favorite fantasy book. All right, readers, back to the episode.
I don't remember which book, but I know you find out. You find out. You find out more about
I know, and there's more to it. I know there is, but I loved what they said to her to give her comfort as her the last rites.
And like, just think about it, like her sister, I don't remember everything, but I remember, like, from Cassia's point of view anyway, like what we find out in the story is how instrumental Cassia's sister was to setting kind of like a form of self-confidence and self-worth in her. And like, her sister was still young, and so it definitely very quickly realized, yes, she is beloved, she should be beloved, and she should be, like, she was obviously someone who was very kind as well, and did what she could for Cassia in every way that she could. And it also makes you think, like, was it just because she's a woman that the king was so easy to, like, let her go? Was there more to it? Like in these stories, I have nothing but answers. Like, I'm gonna be real with you. Most of these, like we said in the part 1, I have a distrust for characters.
Yeah.
So immediately, like Uncle Aros, I was immediately like, watch him be like a traitor somehow, and like I started like watch him like be in league or something. Like, I always think the worst of these characters, and like I'm like, what's the third act breakup gonna be for like Cassia and Leo? And like, you just sit there, like, these formulas that you're kind of so used to reading, you come to expect. And I love that Vela kind of challenges those. She still surprises you in ways that you weren't thinking about, because you were so stuck on these traditional beats or like stories. I just got off topic, but yeah.
You're going to the next one, the next point. Anyways, that's what I like about the slow burn. We talked a lot about it in the first part, and it didn't do the third act breakup, because it was more of like their situations torn them apart, and you're like, no.
Yeah. No. We worked so hard on this. Why are you going to take them apart now? Let
he's
us
like,
be happy.
I like how he was able to, like, he's forced back into his world. Unfortunately, because of everything that was happening in the plot, he can't go back to her. But he's like, I think he's like, no, I'll come find you. I'm like, ah! I said it wrong earlier. I looked at the back of the book, and I'm like, true to Cassia's nature. It's not Leo's like, wait for me. I'm going to read it because I think it's so cool how he said it. He said, Cassia, I need you. I'm going to say, I'm terrible. Wow. This is why I don't do narrate. Cassia, I need you. The magic ebbed around her ebbed, and Leo's image began to fade. Wait for me. And then skip over a little. She's like, no, Cassia burst. I will not wait for you. You think I would idle here in the palace walls in Tenebera, and wait for you? She took another step toward him, her fist at her sides. Mark my words, I will not rest until I bring you to me. This I swear. I will make a way. I was like, yes!
And it's a far difference, right, between the Cassia at the beginning and the Cassia at the end. Not that, like, she didn't have that strength, but just that she has now that confidence that she can do this, and that she will,
She's like, I'm not waiting on you. I'm going to be going after you, and I'm going to bring you to me.
Yeah, I got you.
I'm not waiting around.
I got you.
She's like, I'm not being the damsel.
We are partners, friend. We are partners.
Yeah, when I first read the first sentence, though, like how you try not to read ahead, and I had to cover the words because I was like, I don't want to like accidentally read too fast. And when I first saw no, I'm like, uh-oh. I was like, Cassia, don't do this to me.
Yeah, like that to like the opening, which is Cassia was always one maneuver away from her last breath, which let's just talk about how wonderful that line is, that Cassia was always one maneuver away from dying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, dang, girl, like, Write that first line. Write that first line, Bella. But from that to I got you. Like I'm going to I don't know how I'm going to do this. And now I'm 8 books in or 7 books in. I forget how many she has. But I'm not going
I
to say
think she's
anything
set.
else because I don't want
Let's
to.
see. Yeah, don't ruin it for me.
I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah,
But
I
I
think
will say I love this world. I love learning about it.
I got till like June 3rd of 2024 to catch up.
You got this. You got this.
Oh. Okay, so
Okay. Back to
okay.
where we were. Where were we at?
No, that was the first point, and we jumped to the third point, and then went back to the second point, and then
No,
that's where we lost
Leo,
ourselves.
are we doing D? Leo's using magic for Cassia for the first time? The feast?
Yeah, since we're jumping off from slow burn, yeah, perfect. Like you said, the virgin trope. It could be hit and miss for me. I think this is like maybe my second time I came across a virgin trope that was open door.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like it was very done very well in that sense. It wasn't like, oh, are you okay? Let me keep going.
Mm-hmm.
It was done right in a relationship aspect of it. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't like some books I've read with the virgin trope in it. And the fact that also he used a little magic to make her experience more comfortable.
Yeah, and I love that she's like, no, I don't want to like not be present or not feel or not experience a moment. And he's like, oh no. It'll just ease any pain. It's
Yeah.
like you're so sweet. It's very much like even though he is also a virgin, because he's such an intuitive person and knows Cassia so well, he basically just like any thought that she might have or worry she might have, he's like there to completely like rest assured. He's super supportive. I'm telling you, he's just the best cinnamon roll that's ever been written.
Yeah, if you're gonna say that enough times, I need to eat one now.
Yeah. He's so sweet. He's just so sweet. And part of it is because he is a Hesperine, right? Like, and he's grown up in this, like, so that is who he is, and the culture that he was raised in. So it makes sense, right, for him to be just that sweet and amazing without any true ulterior motives other than to lift someone up, right? But yeah, it's good. I'm just gonna say that every time. It's good. So I will say, even watching Leo do his magic the first time that they met, where he was like weaving kind of like a veil around her so she wouldn't be detected, and her not to realize that that was being done, and then that she got home just on her own without being detected and everything. And when he was like, I know I did this, but you left it, like, and because she was like, there was points where she was like, she didn't understand how the magic system worked or anything, so she was basically like, oh, but can this person smell this on me? Can this person like tell, like, would they be able to sense the magic or like whatever? And I think it's really fun to learn the dynamics. Like Leo very Leo kind of like puts down they're like, what are they, sorcerers? What are they called? I can't believe I don't remember this. Mages?
I think it's mages, but I'm not 100% on that. I didn't catch every detail in this book, but
yeah. I think they're mages. But it's very fun to see him kind of like, no, you would have to basically be intimate with them or close with them, and or like, you know what I mean, for them to even notice anything.
No, I think mages is actually used for the mortals, the human people.
Yeah, so like they're like the mortal magic users, the ones that just like the ones that use too much magic to kind of show off, and like, and Leo's over here thinking, why would you do that? Like that. Like, I just think it's very interesting to see how powerful Leo truly is and how kind he is. Like, there's a point where he tells Cassia, oh no, like I can like mess with your mind, I can mess with people's minds, like, and they won't know, or like, like,
Mm-hmm.
and her finding that out because she's already so distrustful or mistrusting that she just doesn't even blink an eye. She's like, nah, I trust you. Like, I know you wouldn't do that to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I love seeing how powerful he is, and how the first time we see him use magic on her, he asks permission, like, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily around her or to protect her or to like cloak her, but the first time that he actively uses that magic on her, he asks her permission, and it adds to the intimacy of the moment, and I thought it was really
Yeah.
sweet. It's just such a sweet freaking book.
What do you that just reminded me a moment, and you tell me what you think. There was a time where Cassia was like, "You can drink for me," and he's like, "No, I'm not going to do that for you."
Yeah.
Because he realized that she was using him in that situation, or the other way around. I can't remember how she said or he said it, and he was like, "No, I'm not going to do it," because he saw through her intentions.
Yes. So basically, he was like, you can bite me, no big deal. And she at first thinks that she's being rejected. Like, I'm just not to your taste. And he
Mm,
was like, no, you're using me as a little bit of a rebellion, like, this is
yeah.
a way to get to her father. But also, like, he's like, you're gonna want it when I do it. Like, you're gonna wholeheartedly just want this whenever it's done. Like, you're gonna, like, and his patience, like him saying no in his patience, because he knows, he can taste basically that, or like sense, I forgot how it is, but he can sense her emotions, for those who don't know
Mm-hmm.
that. So he was able to tell that she wasn't even necessarily aware that what exactly her motives were in that, and they weren't completely like because she wanted it. So him saying no in that patience was like a total power move. I was like, oh, you're so sexy with your patience. like dang. And like he like hit a tree, I think, even after, like, when she left, he like hit a tree because he turned down the offer. And it kind of pissed her off. Like, how dare you tell me what I think? How dare you, like, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, it kind of like upset her. And
Kind of
rightfully
called her
so.
out, I think, is so.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I think.
Yes, yeah, no, it did. It honestly did, because he has that kind of like sixth sense, if you will, to be able to know, because people don't always know exactly what their motives are, and they
Mm-hmm.
may not completely. And I think her starting to realize the difference between manipulation and being moved around like a chess and like a pawn piece
Mm-hmm.
unhealthily, and that being like the goal. And then also someone like Leo, who doesn't necessarily think he knows exactly what's best for her all the time, but wants to lift her up and doesn't want anything tainted for her, including
Mm-hmm.
that, right?
Right.
Because that's going to mean a lot to him too. That I think, like, when she gets to know him, she can get to a place where I don't have to question his motives. You know what I mean? And that's something
Mm-hmm.
new and different for her. She has to question everyone's motives.
I think it was just like a true balance of power, I guess, in a way, because he was always
Yeah.
checking her to like you said, not to be used by the king by trying to get to him, and because I think she did go in that situation in a moment of desperation, but he's like, I'm not going to use you at that way, but it personally kind of tore him up, because I'm pretty sure he was like, I want to, because he, according to the swirl, he's very drawn to her scent, drawn to her, and it's like, as we figure out in the end why that is the case. And I guess it's a big thing is that Cassia is his grace. Is that how they say it? The
Yeah.
grace.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the whole fated mate thing.
Mhm.
And I'm so glad they didn't use my mate,
Yeah.
fated mate.
Yeah.
I was so over that.
Yeah, and I think
So,
it shows a really higher level of understanding without being in her mind, and being able
mhm,
to kind of like pick up these beats from her. Now, I will say, technically, I guess because her scent and like her blood and everything calls to him on that level because they are graces. I could see how someone might say that there is like an instant lust, but I do feel like had Cassia been different personality wise, it like that would not have happened. And you don't really see that from Leo until like you do. He's like, yes, I want this, but he's able to compartmentalize, and he's older. He's much older than her. And we're finally seeing like an older being that acts older on maturity level than someone that looks the age of, you know what I mean? We're seeing that because we're so used to, you know, fae that are like this 100 years old and that 100 years old with this like person that's young, but they're still kind of on the same maturity level at one way or another. Whereas here, you truly see that Leo is on kind of like another wavelength without talking down to her while still treating her like an equal, but he just has these other gifts that have allowed him to have this deeper understanding of her that she may not even know, and it helps her to even like grow up and learn those things because she's only ever really known deceit, manipulation, ridicule, and she's not seen a lot of the world, you know what I mean?
It's I forget the age difference because in their own way, both of them are mature.
Yeah, and he's only like 40 or something, right? Like he's not like hundreds of years old, but for us, he's still considered older than Cassia, even though he doesn't look it. And for his people, he's still considered young.
Yeah, I think he's the first time ambassador, and so he's very young into this, but he's very powerful as Hesperin. So I thought that was very interesting. It's like a part of that. Like I hate age gaps because a lot of sometimes authors really narrow down on that. Like I'm older than you, I'm more mature than you, or you're older than me, or something like that, and it gets kind of like, ugh. But it was mentioned, but it wasn't like brought to attention, and it wasn't through their personalities that they're like, oh, there's an age gap.
Yeah.
Last process is talking about the ending.
Ooh, that ending though.
Well, things went down in that ending.
I will say I love that Cassia helped them out and did it in such a way that no one would suspect her. Like in the moment when they were doing their spell, like she gave them blood, like an offering of blood basically, and she's like, who cares if they think that I'm just some horrible girl that swooned and accidentally used this shovel to hurt herself while like dodging or something. Yeah. And I love that, and I love that immediately he knew, and his eyes were on her, and that the other Hesperines afterwards recognized while being like, she may not have meant to do it, but she did it. And I just love this dynamic of neither of them can be very honest except for with each other. And now they're being brought apart in this ending. So there's really no one now that they can be super honest with. And I am curious to see your thoughts on book 2 and how that goes.
I know, because obviously the Hesperines, his other ambassadors that are with him now kind of know a little bit. Obviously, I guess there was the rebel children that people were after, and they actually saved them as well in the process. Obviously, they kind of like, oh, they working together, you know? My thoughts is that I don't think the king knows much about what happened, but obviously book 2 would probably tell more than anything. And then, of course, the mage who was trying to kill all of them and make it look like it was an assassination attempt, and he was going to kill all the nobles in one shot, including Cassia. I thought it was kind of like interesting that the king was like, because of how she was responding to him, or she never showed up when he beckoned her, was sentencing her to die, and the king was like, yeah, just kill her too, and all the nobles.
Yeah, she deserves it is basically like what he was at. Like, she deserves it.
I'm just like, this guy is cruel. He's brutal. Like, I'm just surprised the length that he's willing to go to get power and to get rid of these Hesperines.
Yeah. I definitely feel like even in that moment where like she finds out the plan, like the king's plan, and then she, tries to be like, hey, this is what's going on, and Leo basically has to tell his people or like whatever, and they have to plan for it. I just love the dynamic of definitely forbidden worlds on both sides, because even with his own people, like this is may not exactly be looked upon as like great, right? Like what were you doing during our summit? Like, there's still that kind of like, I have to keep this secret for a multitude of reasons, but one is he doesn't exactly know how they're going to react. And I think it's very interesting that he doesn't get to, like, in that the like last message that he gave, he doesn't really tell her exactly what she means to him, or like none of that is really communicated. And I know it's quick and there's not a lot of time because they're closing the borders. The queens are putting a call out to close the borders, which means he will literally be trapped there. I just I can't wait for you to read book 2. I can't wait for you to read book 2.
One thing I'm excited about this series is that the whole part 1, part 2 thing kind of threw me off for some reason.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, maybe it's their love story, this 2-part books, and then it's going to get into other things and other people in the other books. And when you told me that it's just them two, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be thrown through a whirlwind here.
Yeah, that's not to say that we don't get other characters. It's like there are a lot of characters in this book, like in these books, I guess is what I should say. There's only more and more characters that get brought into these books, so you definitely get more of other people. But that's also the reason why people are like, I want them to get their own, like, these people to get their own book, or that person to get their own book, or what was the backstory of this person. And she does do short stories or like novellas with some of the other characters, so you get to kind of have that. But the story is Leo and Cassia's story, but there are a lot of people that get involved along the way, right?
Okay.
And you get to know a little bit about them as well. But I will tell you that the love story is always very prevalent, and their connection is always very prevalent throughout all of it, even though there are plots and there are other people in this. It's always Cassia and Leo that are like the center.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah. Read part 1, part 2.
Yeah. Well, Blood Solace is just Blood Solace. I don't think there's not a part 2 in Blood Solace, right? Did I make that up?
Yeah, I think Blood Sanctuary is part 1, part 2, and Blood Union is part 1, part 2.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, Blood Solace, it's a good one indeed. Let's see, Blood Feast comes out, did you say
June 3rd. So that's why I got till June 3rd to catch up.
Someone rated it. How is that possible? Who rated this book? Who has read this book already? Someone's already rated it, and I'm finding them now. Who is this?
Person with no profile picture.
Like, who are you? How did you get a hold of this book? I want it. I'm glad that you enjoyed this, because I'm always really nervous anytime I give Rex, because I'm such a mood reader that I can be like, ooh, let me tell you all the things and all the reasons why you might not like this, just to make sure you're in the right mood and the right headspace to try to start reading it. That's why I was like, just so you know, it's like high fantasy and it's very detailed. It's a start. It's not an ending. It's not a happily ever after. It's a continuation of a story, but it's not a cliffy. It's not like one of those like, oh no, someone's in jeopardy. It's how are they going to get back together?
Exactly. Our favorite people are torn apart. They need to get back together now.
We just spent so many pages getting them together. And now Vela is ripping them apart. Oh.
Cruel world. Any last thoughts before we wrap up this? I know there's just, we only touched a smidge of what this book is about.
Yeah,
but we only have so much time to talk about it. So
literally, like, this could go on for probably like at least another hour if we really wanted to sit and hit each plot and each beat. But you also gotta pick up the book and read it. if you
I
haven't.
think you got to experience it, but
Yeah.
obviously, I hope
Do you
you
have
read it if anyone's listening to this. So
Do you have any favorite quotes?
I like the end. I just read that one.
Yeah.
It's when she's kind of like, "No, I'm going to go find you. I'm not waiting around for anybody. I'm going after you,
Yeah, I'm
and
doing
I
it.
will not rest till I do it."
I feel like there was, you remember the dancing scene? I loved all of that too, because like the one thing that they had to be very careful with is they couldn't have a lot of eye contact during the day
Mhm.
or like a lot of contact. So for him to be able to dance with her, he had to dance with like everyone else before he danced with her. It
Oh
almost
yeah.
seemed like an after effect. Like I'm doing you a favor to like make it seem like I'm giving a hand out to you humans and you're royal, like you know. But I do like that he is no match for you to be sure, but he does not deserve a rematch with you. So like when one of the mages was being not great to her, who would not count himself fortunate to be your choice when all your choices are so carefully made? I think those are one of my two favorite ones. I have a lot more highlighted, but those two stand out for me.
I like that one too.
Yeah.
That was a fun time.
Yay.
So
When
thank
are
you
your
for.
predictions? I can't tell you any of my predictions for what's in the future for this. Do you have any predictions on what you're going to see in book 2 or what you want to see in book 2?
I have predictions on that might happen throughout the whole book. Part of me thinks that Cassia's sister is still alive, and I'm not going to look at your facial expressions in case you give me any hints.
I'm giving none.
And I think eventually there might be a time that Cassia might be doing the blood mercy as well. Eventually, I
You
think
think
Cassia will.
You think that she's going to become Hesperine? Is that what you mean? Or you think she's
Yeah,
going to give
yeah.
the blood mercy to someone?
She's going to become Hesperine.
Okay.
And she's going to have these amazing powers that are awakened. Or another thought is that she's going to find a way to get to that city where Leo is at. So that's some of my predictions.
And what do you want to see happen? Like, what are like these are like things ideally in this world that I want to learn more about or see happen. Like I know one of it was the rights. Like you want to learn about the rights.
Yeah, the rights, and I do want to learn more about the queen of the Hesperians. How does Leo fit in that world? The political. I love the political intrigue in anything. So the political dynamic that happens after they shut down the walls and things like that. They're shutting everything down. What's going to happen next? Because it was pretty important for this treaty to happen. So now they kind of declared. It's like almost as if the war was declared. So I'm wondering if that's going to be more of that background story in the second book, more development in that.
Yay! Cool. Well, I definitely think we should read book 2 and no rush on that because I know you have other things that you have to read and other people you have to do podcasts with.
Yeah. I have to pace myself. It's so difficult. I'm getting better. So thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And we'll definitely be looking into more books in the future to do together because I love interacting with you on this. Yay. And thank you, readers. Definitely follow Bookish McGee on Instagram, and she's on Goodreads too. So, and keep out for the next episodes because I have a lot more authors these schedules. So yeah. Well, thank you.
And if you have read Blood Mercy or any of the Blood Gray series, please message me. I will talk about it all day.
Yeah. Her knowledge eats no bounds. So. Thank you for joining me. Keep out for the next episodes and read with you later, readers.
Thank you, readers, for listening to my podcast on fantasy books. I hope you're enjoying the content and finding it helpful in discovering new books to read. If you have a moment, please consider leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at BookTravertReader to stay updated on new episodes and other book-related content. Thank you again for your support and happy reading.